This has been mishandled really by both sides since the beginning. I think if they were able to, at some point, get together, sit down, talk, and if it was just John and Khalil, that would be fine. And I really feel that Odell took the right approach. Odell showed up. He showed the new head coach. He showed the new GM. He showed the owner that he was committed to the program, that he was healthy, that he was going to work. He allowed them to see all the value that he brought to the team. Where in this other situation, it's been butting heads since the beginning. And you've got a head coach who signed a 10-year deal for $100 million. He's got all the power, and he's looking at this longer term as to what type of precedent am I going to set. And when you come in and you make things confrontational from the beginning, then you just get two guys in a standoff, and it's hard.
Who made things confrontational from the beginning?
Well, it depends on who you listen to. According to the reports I've read, John reached out. His calls were never returned. I don't know if he reached out a second time. To me, confrontation, both parties are responsible for that. Either one could have just said, hey, why don't we get together and spend some time together and just see where that goes?
But at this point, just based on something we discussed off the air yesterday, you are concerned, or you would be concerned if you were Gruden, that if they give him the money, it sets a bad precedent for the other players on the team moving forward, and as far as the rest of what he hopes is a 10-year tenure as the Raiders head coach?
Well, whether it's the draft, whether it's free agency, whether it's holdouts, whether it's discipline, you set a precedent. And once that precedent is set, then it's hard to roll it back. So if you allow people to shoot their way out of contracts, if you allow people to take that stance, then what's to stop the next guy from doing it, and the next guy from doing it, and the next guy from doing it? Because they know you're going to fold. So now you created a problem that didn't exist before.
Yeah, I believe, especially when a coach is trying to reestablish a culture, or he's trying to implement something that's totally different than what they're used to, it becomes very important that he's consistent at the beginning in his decision-making. Now, if John Gruden is going to win football games are won by good players making good decisions under stressful situations. And I would try to equip myself, if I was starting out, with the best possibility that I might be able to be successful. Now, I know they're worried about the long-term ramifications from this contract. Because if you give a defensive player this type of money, ultimately, what is it going to mean in the locker room? Your quarterback, which he wasn't the high draft pick, he was a second-round pick, not the first-round pick, they gave him the contract. So in giving him that contract, he hasn't performed as high as Khalil Mack has performed. So also, in not giving Khalil Mack, what John Gruden is doing, he's sending a sign to the team inadvertently that this guy, who we haven't had any problems with, there's nothing that he can do to get a contract with Carr, who was a quarterback, who people say, how good is he going to be, who they did give a contract to.
And what you're talking about setting precedent. What if the precedent is as simple as this? Yeah, we do bend if you're an MVP. If you're defensive MVP, offensive MVP. If you're the best in the league at what you do, we actually might give you a contract early. We might bend to your demands. Like if I'm the right guard on the Raiders, unless I'm delusional, I don't look at what they did for Khalil Mack and say, well, that means they got to do it for me, right? Or do you think I'm misreading that?
I think that players look at what happens to other players, and they all feel like they're extremely important to the team. And regardless of what spot I have, you're gonna look at how that was handled with other guys. Now, there's a difference between having a precedent and belief system and just being stubborn to the point of hurting yourself. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with these two sides getting together and spending some time together. Those two people need to talk. Those two people need to spend some time together.
I can look at it in hindsight now because we're getting ready to start the season. But in these situations, I don't believe every player's situation is the same. Odell, as you mentioned, I gave him the advice. You need to go to the Giants. You need to go to Pat Shermer from his first day. You need to talk to him. You need your own relationship with him. And whatever Pat tells you, and I know what Pat's going to tell you, you need to be at minicamp. You need to be at the OTAs. So you need to be in agreement with him before you even go into the meeting, Odell, because this is what he's going to ask you to do. So I believe in certain instances you get more done being in the building because the coaches, the organizations, they can see the assets. If I was Khalil Mack, what I wish he would have done, I wish they could have came to an agreement on a one-year deal. I wish he would have went to training camp because in training camp, if I was Khalil Mack, what I would have done, I would have destroyed John Gruden's practices. I would have destroyed all of his offensive linemen and let him know there is no future without me, because that's one thing coaches understand. When they see the talent, and we can't go back, but if he had signed a one-year, if John could see how good the guy is, how good he is in the locker room, a lot of times you can see a long-term deal worked out because John says, listen, I'm not going to win a lot of football games unless I have that guy on the field.
Is John Gruden making the decision here? Is this going to be John Gruden's decision?
Yes, 100% he's making the decision. And he's got
Coach, how do you know that?
Because he's got a 10-year contract. He's made $100 million. The owner said it was one of the best days of his life when he hired him. He's making whatever decision.
He's got the juice.
The juice times
100 million?
Yeah. My kids would say times infinity. So he's got that power. Now, with Khalil, if he's acting this way when he wants a contract, how is he going to act when he gets a contract?
See, I don't think so.
I know where you're going to go with this, but what's wrong with Khalil showing that he's vested in the team? He's vested
because it is a partnership.
It is a partnership.
It is a partnership. And what's wrong with the team doing what the teams as a whole said they would do the entire purpose of the new CBA? The whole purpose of it was to pay who? Not unproven rookies, guys like Khalil Mack. But
I ain't got it, though, Nick.
Okay, well, that's a separate issue. Then maybe
you should mention that.
That the Raiders are cash poor. Of all the NFL teams, they are the most cash poor. Fair enough. They found the money, as Coach mentioned, in the couch cushions for Gruden's $100 million. So I think you could find the cash. This is my problem. This is why, Odell had to be on his best behavior. He missed last year with injury. He has been a fringe guy when he's not between the lines. A video came out that we talked about last segment of potentially drugs in a hotel room. He damn sure better show up. He damn sure better do everything right. This guy's never missed a game. He's never been injured. He's been your best player for 4 years. You are, last 2 years, second to the last in the league in sacks, despite the fact that he's top 5 in the league in sacks in that same time frame. He shouldn't. The right thing to do is to pay him.
So sitting back, you see somebody new get hired who has the control that he has, and you are the player that Khalil Mack is. What makes you think, hey, I'm not going to return calls. I'm not going to engage with this person who controls my future. And I think really good things are going to come from that.
Maybe he got bad advice from his agent.
That happens all the time.
I would imagine that was not. I would imagine.
And he needs to call Cris because Cris gave Odell really good advice, and Odell.
And that was before the hotel room.
Correct. That was before the hotel room, but
yes.
Post-injury and post all the other stuff. Once we knew, listen, Odell, you've been there. Tom Coughlin got fired. Then McAdoo got fired. Now you got an offensive coach. You need to repair these things. I don't believe in the idea that a player that has achieved at the level that Khalil Mack has, that it's as simple as, well, he's under contract.
It is as simple as he's under contract. If he wants to go get paid at a record level, then be a free agent, like Kirk Cousins was.
Aaron Donald didn't have to.
He
Odell
reset the bar.
These guys.
Every guy's different with different teams now. You can't. Stan Kroenke, what he's doing, the Mara family, what they're doing, their pockets are a lot deeper, too.
Can we acknowledge this? Just last point, I apologize. That there's 32 teams in the league. 30 of them would have already given Khalil Mack an extension.
But we can't forget that the Raiders don't have the cash, though.
Who are the two? You're saying
the Raiders and a team and a mystery team. New England. New England, maybe.
You think Khalil Mack was not going to show up in New England and then Bill would be like, oh, I love that behavior. Let me reward you with the highest paid contract in the world.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.